This conference will now be recorded.
Good evening, fellow lands. It is indeed a pleasure to welcome you again to another one of our fantastic presentations. We started on the 26th, today is the 29th, and all the presentations thus far have been wonderful. And we expect that this evening's presentation will be no different. This evening, we're going to be talking about PR communications and membership. And the person leading this presentation will be Lion Dave Scarlett and his team. And I will allow him to present his team. But first, let us have the Lion's Prayer. You can all turn on your mics and say the Lion's Prayer together.
Where lands
present for
The lands be present to well the heart on the court to do thy will to make us strong to aid the weak and right the wrong.
Thank you so very much, fellow lands. Now, relax and listen to a fantastic presentation. There are 34 of us here thus far, and we know that by the time this presentation will conclude, we would have about 50 or if not 60. Landy?
Thank you, Land. Thank you so much, Land Paulette. Good evening, fellow lands.
Might I say before you go, Landy, that all the presentations will be online after we have tidied them up a bit. So after the 31st, after Sunday, all the presentations will be online for you to scrutinize and give us feedback. And we also want you to do evaluations of all the presentations. Thank you, Landy.
You're welcome. Good evening, my fellow lands. This evening it is my pleasure on behalf of my team. We are going to be presenting on two topics. How we have decided to do it. The first topic will be PR and communication. I'm sharing that presentation. I have the distinct pleasure of sharing that presentation with my co-zone chairman from a long time ago, Lan Winston Ferron from the Man of the Club. And when we get to membership, I will be sharing with Lan Jackie Foster. She's a past region chairperson and a Melvin Jones fellow, also from the Man of the Club. The agreement was that both of them would start first, and then I will finish up based on what slides they're covering. So without further ado, I ask Lan Winston Ferron to begin. Thank you. Lan Winston? Lan Paulette, are you able to hear Lan Winston?
No, I'm not hearing him.
All right, let me give him a call. One moment. I just spoke with him. I'm not sure if he's having a difficulty with his mic.
While we're trying to find Lan Winston, let me also tell you that my Lion presentation will be on Sunday evening at 6:30. This is Sunday the 31st at 6:30. So please place it in your diaries. That will be the final presentation in this series of presentations. And of course, we ask you to do your evaluation so we can see how we've done and how we can move forward with perhaps this is a new normal in online presentations. I think we've been doing quite well so far. Andy, are you anybody?
Dave, I'm here. Are you hearing me?
Yes, we're hearing you now, Lan Winston. You may go ahead.
Okay.
Thank you so much,
Okay.
Lan Paulette, and thank you, my fellow Lans.
Should I go ahead?
Yes, please.
Okay, good. Good evening, all. First, let me thank all of the presenters so far before me for their valuable contributions. I would also like to congratulate all the incoming officers, and I'm sure with the commitment that they have shown so far, we'll all have a lot to contribute as we move forward in line of Zim. Okay, our role tonight is to talk a little about public relations. Public relation, what is public relation? Public relations involve all forms of communication, from writing, press release, and distributing promotional flyers to talking to friends, family, and co-workers. Equally important are actions such as wearing a lion's lapel pin or marching in a parade. Good public relation is informing the community of some of your club's activities and seeking their support. For example, the planting of trees, vision screening, also would help to foster good community support. Public relations can even support your club's membership's effort. People want to belong to a successful and reliable organization. By actively promoting your club and its programs, you will be promoting a positive image in the community and showing that your club is worth joining. What are some of the responsibilities of the public relations chairperson? PR is every Lion's responsibility. The PR chairperson is in charge of, one, communicating information about your club to the community, including the media, keeping your club aware of PR efforts and results, providing information to international headquarters about outstanding Lions program and activities by using the Submit Your Story feature on the Lions Club International website. How do we get started? Set goals. Review your club's previous efforts. Evaluate what worked, what didn't, and why they didn't work. Determine the PR budget for the year. Effective public relation program can be done on a limited budget. Be sure to budget for both ongoing public relations efforts and special events. Also important to plan ahead. Planning and timing execution are vital to your public relation effort. Create a timeline. Determine how and when you will promote your club and when you will start publicity for your club's special events. But be flexible. Newsworthy activities may come up during the year. Use resources. Visit the LCI website for resources that will help you execute your PR program. Discuss your plan. Meet with your club's president and the chairperson of your club's various events and projects. Be persistent. Keep your club visible in the community. Isn't something that will happen overnight. It takes time, so you have to be quite persistent about that. Keep a record. Note to whom and when you send releases and who use them. Save articles about your club. Include the publication's name and issue date on the clipping. Record broadcasts of interviews and other radio and television coverage and share it with your club. Inform your club.
Report regularly on your publicity efforts and result at club meetings. Write articles about public relation activities and result for your club newsletter. Explain how your club benefits for good public relations. So how do I determine, or how we determine what is newsworthy? News offers information about activities or events that are of interest to affect or involve the public. Some projects, although are worthwhile, may not be newsworthy. To determine what is newsworthy, ask yourself, would a non-lion find this interesting or useful? Public service gives information about specific topics to help or assist the public, such as describing the warning signs of a particular disease or encouraging volunteerism. Decide which activities are unique and may be of interest to the media to be considered newsworthy. They should be about timely events or activities that enhance your local community. Example, the school programs, involve the general public or other community groups, fundraising, school supplies, perform a public service. Example, vision, health screening, drug abuse, education, etc. Decide which activities are unique and may be of interest to the media to be considered newsworthy. Okay, actually, went through. Read local newspapers, watch television, news programs, and listen to a variety of local radio stations to get a feel of what is likely to be covered by your news media. Some examples of club activities with possible news value are service projects aiding community groups such as the visual impaired, disabled, or elderly. Youth programs, Lions International Peace Poster Contest scholarships. Special fundraising events, club anniversary events, and major donations. Lions Club International Foundation grants, disaster relief, club elections, volunteer recognition, Melvin Jones recognition, holiday projects. Create a special list by compiling the names of newspapers, radio and television stations in your area, along with mailing address, email, and telephone numbers. Call each media outlet to determine the editors or reporters to whom you should send information about Lions activities. Verify the spelling of names and ask about deadlines. Also, ask how they want to receive information, whether by email, fax, or your general mailing address. Verify the spelling of names. In general, information should be sent to the following: general assignment editor or small daily or weekly newspaper, community events reporter at large daily newspapers, news and public service director at radio and television stations. Not every Lions news story will be published or broadcast. Local newspaper editors and news director of radio or television stations decide which stories will be printed or broadcast each day. So don't be discouraged. Keep sending in those stories. And one day some will be published, some will publish, and some will not be published. Be persistent. Continue to look for good stories and angles that make Lionism stories newsworthy. Okay, at this stage, I'm going to ask Lion Dave to continue this part of the presentation about PR. Lion Dave.
Thank you, Lion Winston. So, fellow Lions, you would have noticed so far that although we have had many options to deal with in terms of the different things we can do to promote PR, one of the last things that Lion Winston shared is that we need to be encouraged, because a number of us over the years will recall that there were complaints all the time that we never ever made the Lion, and the number of things that we have done that are very newsworthy and so on. But on the odd occasion, the Caribbean Lions clubs have appeared in the magazine, so we have been grateful for those occasions. So I'll continue. How do I share Lions messages with the public? Use a combination of the following PR tools and resources to share your message with the media and community members. First one we look at is a press release. Press releases answer 6 key questions in the first 2 paragraphs. Who, what, when, where, why, and how. And a number of us are accustomed to the 5 W's, especially those of us that have served as club secretaries, because when it is that we have to write our own reports, we have to look at those questions in an effort to ensure that we are reporting properly. Subsequent paragraphs should provide additional information in descending order of importance. Simply written and fact-filled releases are more likely to be published. To increase the chances that your release will be used, the following should be considered. Next slide, please. Be sure that it is about a newsworthy event. Keep paragraphs and sentences short, limiting them to a single idea. Use quotes to enhance basic information. When attributing quotes, be sure to identify the person's name and title, and include the name of the appropriate contact person at the top of the page, along with a daytime telephone number and email address. Now, sometimes when we're not very accustomed to these things, we tend to give a lot of information. So the person's reading, remember they're reading a whole lot of persons who are making requests. So it's very important that we put in the things that we need them to see early. That is why they've asked you to look at an order in which it is that you are looking at the thing. So even if they do a skim, they have enough to know whether or not this is newsworthy enough for them to deal with, or for them to assist with publishing. Press release guidelines. Follow a standard press release format and download pre-formatted fill-in-the-blank sample releases from the LCI website. And if you go to the Lions Clubs International website, my fellow Lions, and you go to the search engine and type press release, you will see the different options that are available. So you have some standard press releases there that you can fashion how you wish, to match back with our own regional efforts, because a number of these efforts clearly are American-based. But once we have the right format in, it is hoped that with the expertise that has gone into preparing those, we should be just as effective on our side. At least 2 weeks before your event, distribute press releases to editors, reporters, and news directors on your media list who cover your particular type of story. And I think all of us understand that. When we watch local television, we know that there are different persons who deal with like hardcore news, there are community events, and so on. So those things are sectionalized. So we have to ensure that what we have is sent to the correct person or department. If you have a major story, follow up with each media outlet 1 week before the event. Offer to answer questions and outline photo opportunities. Be positive and enthusiastic in explaining why their audience would be interested in your story. Call your local media outlets to suggest a feature story to a reporter or editor in a situation when a press release might not tell the story well. So if you need some coverage, and it is a case that they offer that kind of service as well, it would be good if you could invite them in. Interest the reporter in covering a story, such as the importance of volunteers in your community, rather than covering a specific event or activity. So sometimes in some magazine programs, where it is that they may invite you in to have a talk, generally, you can also benefit from that, and then you are able to get a plug in for the different projects and activities that your club covers. So in completing this exercise, did a couple of searches online. This is change of administration 2015 for the St. Andrews Club. Lion Kerris was coming in as president, and the charter president and our outgoing president are in this picture. And there was an article in the Daily Gleaner. Next slide, please. Interviews and public speaking. An appropriate club spokesperson should be prepared to provide accurate information with enthusiasm and confidence. Now, this is very important because when it is that we are going out there to speak in the public on behalf of our club, it's going to be very important that you select the right person. Now, it doesn't mean you have to select the same person all the time because we are both volunteering and growing. So if Lion A goes on this occasion, Lion B can be prepped to go, but we are to ensure that the person is properly prepped so on the next occasion when somebody else is going, they represent the club in the way we would like to be represented. The following are tips for successful interviews. It's very important that if you're going out there to be interviewed on behalf of your club and the project and activities that you do, that you know your facts. Be ready to expand upon the who, what, when, where, why, and how stated in the media material. So you have to go over your media material and ensure that you can answer the questions appropriately. Prepare key message points. Rather than answer a question with a simple yes or no, use the interviewer's question as a bridge to your key messages. Practice answering likely questions prior to the interview. So you could do a little dry run with your club. What kind of questions do you think they would ask? So we could fire some questions at you. You practice some answers. If it is that the answers are, we're not thinking that they're so A-class or up to scratch, we could offer options, discuss it, and then prepare so the person can be very prepared as they go in and represent not just the Lions Club that they're a part of, but Lionism in general. Review the association's key messages on the Lions Club's international website and adapt them to fit your club's messages. So what are the key programs this year? You know, we're in the second century of service. We have 5 major areas that we look at. They are so, and that kind of thing. You know, so they understand that you're comfortable with your material and you're coming with an informed position as to how you manage stuff. Give short, clear responses. Mention your main points early in the interview in a few brief, clear sentences. If you do not know the answer to a question, offer to find out the answer and follow up immediately. Mention your club's name often. Avoid saying only I or we. Always ensure to say the Lions Club of Mandeville. We, the members of the Lions Club of St. Catherine Central. Here in the Lions Club of Spanish Town. So they are grounded and they're understanding that this is a club that we're talking about and what we do. Watch what you say. Never give off-the-record comments. So, you know, sometimes we all fall guilty to that. We get a little annoyed about something and we may make a comment and not realize that it comes off negatively. And then remember, you have to go back to your club, you know. The person's going to say, boy, Dave, what kind of comment was that you made? So you have to watch stuff like that. Dress appropriately. Always wear your Lions pin. For television, avoid pinstripes, white shirts, loud prints, and too much jewelry. Because some of this can get distracting. People would tend to be looking at your jewelry or your famous pinstripes more than trying to listen to what it is that you're offering. Smile. Be conversational. Let the reporter see that you really enjoy being a Lion and you enjoy what it is that you do as a Lion. So here are some pictures from Men Who Cook in Mandeville. You'll notice on the left, CPM TV is the camera man here, all dressed up, and he's interviewing one of the past presidents, I think, of the Mandeville Club. And in the other picture, the incoming zone chairman for Zone 1B from the Mandeville Club is being interviewed on this occasion. You'll notice that both lands are dressed appropriately. Their lands emblems are right there, so nobody has to guess which club it is. As long as it is that you are dressed appropriately and have on the right item, people will know which club it is and then listen to what is being said. Post-event publicity, very, very important. Once you have got the publicity you need and the publicity that you have earned, having put in the work, there is also some work to be done. Report the results of your programs and fundraisers to the community through the following: a press release. Prepare a brief one-page press release highlighting the project's results. Include photos. You could write a letter to the editor as well, a thank you note to the community. Just generally to thank the community for the support they gave for the particular event, and go on to encourage them and say, we hope that, this is an annual event if it is, and as such, going forward, we expect that we'll get your support next year, and we look forward to bigger and brighter things. Display advertisement. Consider placing a small advertisement thanking the community for its support. Many publications offer not-for-profit discounts. Some will even donate unsold free space. Let me read that again. Some will even donate space free of charge. In Jamaica, for example, and just keep that thank you flyer there. That's one option that the Mandeville Club had used for men who cook, having completed their exercises for 2019. But we also have the lands page that we haven't used a lot in Jamaica recently, where we were able to display different clubs, projects, and activities where clubs are concerned. And sometimes we have used it for mid-year conferences and district conventions and so. So we have some options. There's work to be done. It doesn't just happen. People have to put in effort to get these things done, but they can get done. So just briefly, you can take a look at the flyer. It speaks to the club's appreciation to the sponsors, cooks, and patrons for the men who cook exercise that took place in 2019. And it also goes on to say that our support, or rather their support, allowed the club to help those persons in need. Next slide, please. Let's now take a look at public service announcements. Public service announcements are brief, 10, 15, or 30-second messages aired at no charge on radio and television stations as a community service. They must benefit the community, not just your club. Lions Clubs International has a collection of public service announcements covering a variety of topics that are available at no cost to clubs, including broadcast quality PSAs in MPEG format for television stations to download. We're lucky in Jamaica that in a number of cases, we also have newspapers, in local newspapers in different areas of our island. So we are able to benefit from that if it is that we go speak to them and get their support to publicize the efforts that we are making, or the efforts that we have put into place to support the community based on the funds we have raised, or if it is that we are doing some kind of public forum, we can get it advertised and so on. Visit the Lions Clubs International website for the full list of PSAs. When writing a public service announcement, brevity and clarity are of utmost importance, since at most you have 10 to 30 seconds to communicate your message. Messages about preventing blindness, serving youth, fundraising events that benefit the community, and public events sponsored by your club are appropriate subjects. Are there any questions so far? The next slide, please. So here are some of the tools we still have in communities, certainly in mine. Every now and again, we have the driver that comes around with the bullhorn and announces different events that they would like community members to participate in. Of course, there's a computer. Well, that keyboard speaks to all sorts of devices that have a keyboard. So it could be your phone, your smartphone, your tablet, whatever it is that you use to communicate. There are the options there as well. So you notice the public relations icon on the right-hand side, and you have the different options that are available. So you can write, you can use any of the options, social media, and so on, and we'll get into some of these details. Next slide, please. Public service announcements need to get the listener's attention. So once it's heard, it needs to grab you. So that you say, wait, something's going on in Spanish Town Club, man. Let me see what it is that they're saying. Show how listeners will benefit from doing what you suggest. Tell listeners where to go, what to do, when to do it, and where to call for more information. So you have to ensure that although it's concise, that there's enough information in that public service announcement that if they need to get back in touch with you, they know exactly how to do it. As a general guideline, a 10-second spot will have approximately 20 words, and a 30-second spot will have approximately 65. Next slide, please. So here are some media options here. So we're looking at coverage, newspaper articles, radio, television, and so on. We spoke to some of those earlier. Next slide, please. Media. Websites and social media sites are excellent ways to let people know about your club. And where it is that you have free websites, then it costs the club very little money. What it will cost is effort because someone has to maintain and update the items on the website. Lions Clubs International still offers the e-club house, where it is that you can create a club website with easy-to-use templates and free hosting. So you have that option that you can go on the national website and do that. Once created, it is important to keep your e-club house updated and to include the site in your publicity materials. So what some clubs have done, especially websites, even if they're not using the e-club house, is that on their letterheads, they also ensure that with the contact numbers and so, they have the email address for contact as well as if it is that they have a website, that is also imprinted on the letterhead. Social media sites such as Facebook, LinkedIn, and Twitter are excellent for promoting Lions Clubs. A lot of times now we are seeing a whole lot of things on Instagram as well. As we continue to attract millennial Lions, younger Lions who are into this kind of thing, it's important that we get them to assist us to push the program so we get more publicity for what it is that we want to get out of our public. And in effect, we get funding, we get support, and we also can attract members. So, as I intimated, ask a club member comfortable with social media to create and regularly manage the club's pages on these sites. And sometimes if you have 2 or 3 young Lions who are into that, they can share the things that they have to do and they will advise us appropriately. Include contact information, photos from recent projects, a statement of purpose, and a list of upcoming events. Some clubs have these statements, a standard that they operate under that's created and it appears on in their publications, anniversary publications, their annual year-end booklets, things like that. Visit Lions Clubs International on the web for links. Oh, back up one, please, Wendy. I didn't finish the 3rd bullet point on that screen. Visit Lions Clubs International on the web for links to social media on Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, Instagram, Flickr, and LinkedIn. And of course, your club will have to approve which ones it is that you would want to use. The next screen has an icon that speaks to the different types of social media. So you'll see Facebook, Pinterest, Twitter, YouTube, Instagram, and so on. And again, this is just to show you what the icons look like. So when these things appear, you have an idea of what those are. And of course, you can always approach the Lion who is managing. So you can ask, what are these things and which one is what and what does it do and how does it share information, so you have an idea as to how to keep abreast of what goes on with the club. Next slide, please. Printed promotional material. Printed materials for promoting your event should answer who, what, when, where, and why, and I don't think we can understate that. We can always say that enough because it is important that the information is complete, ensuring that those areas are covered. Use clear, concise language and include only necessary information. Be eye-catching and printed with a laser printer or professionally printed. Now, some of us can create these fancy things with the skills that we have honed over the years. So we have to get them approved. So once it is that it's completed and it's going to go out to the public, we must get it approved by our club, because it has to be of a certain standard. So we should define. Use a bold, easy to read font or typeface. And it's very important that when we're doing presentations or of that nature, we don't have a mixture of fonts and a whole lot of different colors and stuff like that, because those things are distracting and will not grab the person's attention, so it may end up in 513. So we have to watch for that. Include your club's name, contact information, and importantly, the Lions logo. You may be able to negotiate with printers or photocopy services to produce your flyers and posters at a reduced not-for-profit rate. I know, for example, in my club, we have had the same printer since the start of our club some 25, 26 years ago. And every time we need to get something done, we always ask if there's any kind of special rate that we can have, because they have had our business for a while. We understand, though, that we're in COVID times, so we'll have to look at different kinds of options now, where we can email out stuff as against having to get stuff printed, because we have an issue with contacting the public, in terms of face-to-face and so on. Have club members post flyers and posters throughout your area at public bulletin boards, libraries, store windows, bus stops, train stations where those existed. Ask local businesses and government offices to have them available for customers as well. So you could ask, a number of persons when they go to the hairdresser. I know a lot of persons leave their Lion magazines there when we used to get them printed a lot, coming from Lions Clubs International. The gentlemen would leave them at the barbers, and so on, so that persons could read material and be aware of what Lions Clubs are doing. Next slide, please. Here's a sample flyer that was used by the Mandeville Club. Save the date, the Lions Club of Mandeville Men Who Cook, and this was for last year's event. And you'll notice it has a level of tropical nature. So although you're kind of noticing like a beach and a little cabana thing and stuff, it is cool. Mandeville doesn't have a beach, but it is very attractive. So it's a nice flyer just to engage people so that they know that this annual event is coming up and it's something that we need your support. Keep going. Photographs. Photos can enhance your club's bulletins and promotional materials and should be sent to newspapers along with a press release. Display photos of your club's activities and people you have helped at a community event. When taking photos, remember the following. Use a digital camera when possible. Digital photos are easy to send, save, and store. Submit digital photos as attached files. Do not cut and paste them into an email. Remember that. Put it as an attachment. Don't paste them into the email, because what it does, it reduces the quality. Use only clearly focused photographs. So just don't send a photograph for photograph's sake. Make sure that the photo is sharp, focused, so that when it comes out, it represents the image and quality that your club would like to represent. Shoot candid rather than posed photos. While posed and group shots may be used in club bulletins, candid shots are more interesting, or rather much more interesting. Many publications will not use posed photos. If you must pose people, make the photos look as natural as possible by having them do something. Carefully frame the photos so no one is cut out of the frame. Now get as close to the action as possible, because if what it is that you're hoping to advertise is too far away, then it's going to be difficult for persons to see what it is that you're hoping to share. So here are some Kodak moments. You'll notice the Lions banner in the background, and the two lines in the picture are both wearing vests, and then you have the group of persons that are benefiting. On the right, you'll notice the photograph of the lands are that the lands in the three lands wearing their vests are really outstanding. However, you'll notice that this one is not as close. So you'll find that what you're getting more, if you look at the picture, the first thing you probably will notice is the trees. So you have to watch to ensure that these pictures are taken at a closer range so that you can focus on what it is that you're doing. In this case, it was a scholarship check that was being given out. Thank you, flyer. Just making another note concerning saying thanks when it is that you have asked the community for assistance. Always ensure that you close off. So once the project is finished and you have counted and you've paid your bills and you've made the lodgements and you've celebrated how much you have earned, make sure that you say thanks to the persons who have sponsored your event. Limit the number of people and don't include too much background. Shoot a lot of photos and select the best shots. Call your local newspapers to see if and how they accept electronic photos. Submit your photos to Lions Clubs International headquarters using the Submit a Photo form on the Lions Clubs International website. The Lion Magazine. Receive national recognition for your club's service activity by submitting articles and photos to Lion Magazine. While not all submissions can be published, here are some guidelines when submitting your story. Submit detailed information, and again, the who, what, when, where, why, and how of your club's completed service project or fundraising activity. Do not send images formatted for use on the internet. And Lions Clubs International is very clear about how it is that they take photos, so we have to watch that. And those of us that use their emblems as well, they will give you the same emblem, but they'll give you different qualities. So if you're doing a newsletter, use this emblem. If you're doing something else, use this emblem, and so on. Web images are too small and do not have the high resolution required for use in the Lion Magazine. Include clear, candid action photographs of lands participating in the project, and be sure everyone in the picture is identified. So once it is that you're going to be sending off a photo to Lions Clubs International, it's going to be important that you caption the picture with the names of the participants. And of course, with the event in particular, you have to describe the event, do what you have to do, and make sure there is enough detail. And just showing off a cover there of the Land magazine. Keep moving, please. As we close out this first session, we're looking at some available resources from Lions Clubs International. This list is not all that's there. When you go in, there are several other things that you can look at. I just chose a few. A variety of materials are available to help you to develop your club's public relations program for the year. See the Communicating Your Activities section under Resources in the Member Center on the LCI website. There are sample press releases, as I mentioned before, and you can just fill in the blanks here and, change it to suit your own need. Key messages and questions. When talking to the media and others in your community about your Lions Clubs and Lions Clubs International, it is helpful to know what messages you want to be sent across to them. So again, the land has to be informed. So Lions, as we look to close out this first session for the evening, I'd like to encourage you. I know a lot of times when we look at some of these things, we recognize that it's a lot of work. But with dedication and support of each of our members, we can get the work done. So as we close out this fiscal year and start looking at the new fiscal year, we recognize that there's time for action. So on behalf of Lion Winston, I'd like to thank you for listening. And now I would take any questions that you may have. Lion Paula?
Hi, Landy. You finished already? I was just getting settled.
That's all right. Remember, we have 2 sessions, So we have another session immediately after this. So
So do you have anything in between? You have a icebreaker or anything, or you want to go straight into the next presentation?
Well, we have an icebreaker for the start of the second session, but I
Oh,
wondered if there's anyone that had a question that they would like to ask.
yes, they could go ahead now and ask the questions.
Mm.
Anybody have any questions? For Dave
Even
and
Anders. Hello?
Hi, Line Isaac.
No, it's Lance Steve.
Or it's Line Steve. Oh, hi, Line Steve.
It's more observation, not rather a question. It has to do with taking pictures of children of the state and not
Okay.
showing their faces.
All right. Okay.
So when we're
there
doing
is a
certain projects, yeah.
Yes. Okay. So there is a rule, and that's a good point, Line Steve. Thank you very much. There is a rule that once it is that we are going to be serving wards of the state, it's very important that we do not take the faces of those children. So we tend to make them group up, like in a circle or so, and we take the picture at an angle that just shows the back of their heads, or even say probably even a part of the sides of their faces. But we are not allowed to take face front pictures of wards of the state. And that's something that's very important. We need to remember that. Great point, Lance Steve. Any other questions?
Dave,
Yes, Line Paulette?
as Steve was talking about the photographs for the words of the state,
Uh-huh.
share something with you regards to we have SOS as one of our sustainable projects.
Correct. Yeah.
And this is part of the protocol. We can take photograph of them from behind, below the neck or something, but we can't show their faces.
Right. Yes. Because I remember even last year's region project when we gave out the glasses,
Yes,
we had to make sure that the angles were correct so we could show the glasses frames in their hands and stuff like that, but we
yes,
couldn't actually show the faces with the glasses on.
indeed, that is so. So would you want to go on to your next part of your
Certainly, if there are no
presentation?
other questions, then we can go for the second session. And
Yes,
then
please.
Jackie will start with that and I will complete.
Thank you.
Welcome. So Line Wendy is about to put up that PowerPoint. And Line Jackie is going to engage us in an exercise as she begins.
Good evening, my fellow Lions. I hope some layers are there too. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you, Line Jackie. You can go ahead.
I'm not sure, Lion, when they got the email for the icebreaker. I'm not seeing it. So we might just have to forego it. I sent it to her yesterday, but I'm not sure she saw it. Anyway, as I said, good evening again to the Lions and layers. We're now going to be talking about membership chair.
Now, Jackie, I'm sorry. Did you still want it? I found it.
You found it? Okay, good.
All right. Did you want it all together or you want it one at a time?
I just wanted 10.
10?
Yes, I don't think there's no all. We wouldn't have the time, so I just chose 10.
Okay, all right.
Okay, fellow lands, while Land Wendy pulls up that exercise, we apologize. The team apologizes for this break in transmission. We should be with you shortly.
There's a chat part. Yes. Fellow lands, while Dave and his team sort out themselves, I just want to remind you that this is the fourth presentation that we are having, and we have another 4 to go. We want to remind you that tomorrow afternoon at 1 o'clock, we have the presentation on secretaries, and Land Steve Prince will do that presentation for us. On your list of activities, I don't think you have the one for My Lion, which is 6:30 on Sunday, and that will be the final presentation in this series of presentations. I'm getting to like this mode of presentation because it gives everybody the opportunity to see all the presentations, which is good. Under normal circumstances with a face-to-face situation, we'll be scrabbling from room to room, whether at the university or some other site. And there you'd only get to see about maybe 2, 3 at the most presentations for the day. And of course, you have the situation of the transportation, logistics problems, and we have to feed everybody for the day and that sort of thing. That is good, the camaraderie, but COVID-19 has sorted that out for us, and we will be using this sort of thing, I hope, perhaps our new normal. So Land Steve, and we know that he'll have a fantastic presentation for tomorrow. Land Dave, are you anywhere near? Or do you want to just continue with your presentation and leave out the...
I think that may be wise if it is that it's going to be a challenge, because the screen is up. We're just waiting on the icebreaker. But Land Jackie, perhaps you could just start, because we don't want to have any further delays.
Okay. As you were saying, we are talking about membership chair or membership director and the team. Now, the slide is not moving. The structure of the membership chair committee.
Land Wendy, are you still with us? Okay, very well, thanks. So that's the one we just completed. Please go back to the membership one, please.
Thank you. Membership, the structure of the membership chair committee. The membership team comprises of 3 members. 1 membership director or chairperson, a vice chairperson, and a regular member. The team is expected to work together to manage all membership-related matters throughout the fiscal year. The membership director or membership chairperson would move off the team at the end of his or her tenure, and the vice chair would move up to be the membership chairperson. The member would move to be the vice chair, and then we add another line to replace the member. Next slide, please. Thank you. Responsibilities. First, development of a growth program specifically for the club and to be presented to the board of directors for approval. Regular encouragement at club meetings to bring in new quality members. Ensuring implementation of proper recruitment and retention procedures. Preparation and implementation of preparation and implementation of orientation sessions, reporting to the board of directors on ways to reduce the loss of members, and coordination with other club committees in fulfilling these responsibilities, serving as a member of the zone, at the zone level on the membership committee. Thank you. Duties. In partnership with the club secretary, maintain the club's register as well as its plans and activities on the calendar. Maintain and upgrade or update records for each member. Be aware of the activities scheduled by Lions Club International by reviewing the annual calendar of events. So you're going to use up your My Line. Check on the website. Ensure to read the available documents on the Lions Club International website so that you're able to respond to questions asked by Lions or prospective Lions. And if you don't have the answer, you don't have to be afraid. You just say to them, well, I'm not sure about that. I will ask a senior Lion Lindell, and Lion June, and Lion Judy in my club, or you go and check the website if you don't have the answer right away. Other duties. Set protocol that relates to visitors who will participate in your club's meeting and service projects. Be sure that these guidelines are communicated to the visitors beforehand so they will understand what is expected of them when they visit. Utilize a sign-up sheet for guests for the purpose of recruitment and potential membership lists. Potential members may be introduced to your club when fellow club members invite guests to your meetings or events or projects. Create birthdays and anniversary lists in order to celebrate milestones in each member's life. It is very important to have this done, and also that each member is contacted on his or her special day. Next slide. Ensure that induction ceremonies are meaningful and that the correct narrative is used based on the category of membership, whether it's a Lions Club or a Leo Club. So you don't want to go say, oh, we are now going to induct a Lion when it's a Leo, or vice versa. Recognize members on their birthdays, so we just said that. Present a token that is in line with your approved membership budget. So make sure it's equal. Do not give one Lion a pen and another Lion a day at the spa. Make sure it's equal because you don't want people to go away saying you're biased. Assist the club secretary to manage the following: interclubbing activities, attendance at projects and activities, as well as zone and region meetings. Register and advise the secretary of members who have participated in projects and activities for makeup purposes where applicable. Prepare a member's record for each new Lion or Leo and update the record of the current members. Make the required report to your board and business meeting. Membership challenges. Studies have shown that 50% of new members are lost to the club within the first 3 years. We have lots of challenges. We are losing most members than we are recruiting. It is felt that problems lies mainly with maybe our recruiting process, or within the operation or function of our clubs, membership experience, economic woes. And with this new norm, pandemic, the situation is going to be very different coming. Competition with other clubs and activities. I see here declining membership. I don't know about you, but the persons I know right now, not a lot of them would want to join Lions Club. They'll come to the functions, but they're unwilling to become members. Aging organization. Can you imagine? Aging. Not a lot of young people will come in, or they come in and they don't stay very long because I don't know, they're bored, they get frustrated, or we are not doing the things they want. As Dave spoke about the Twitter and the Facebook and all of that, they're mostly into that. But that's not the only thing that Lions Club is up to. We have to do more. Low decreasing level of participation. Why? Let us find that out. We have to work very hard. And declining attendance at meetings. Right, membership profile, thank you. So we go on to membership profile. We want the right quality, quantity, and the right mix. We need people with leadership. We need people with skills and abilities. And they must have a mix in our interests. Are they interested in service? Or they're just coming there to profile? Shared value and different life experiences. So we think of persons that would be interested in becoming Lions: nurses, doctors, lawyers, teachers, technicians, sales representative, medical personnel, firemen, police, skilled workers, hairdressers. But they won't just come in to be a member for 2 years. They must be very, very, very dedicated. So let us keep that in mind, that when we're looking for new members for our clubs, we don't just go for the profile persons, bank managers, and so on. And Lion Dave, over to you now. I would still love to do the icebreaker, but if Lion Wendy is not able to do it, then thank you so much for listening. Lion Dave, over to you. Membership retention strategies.
All right, thank you, Lion Jackie. In closing off one or two of the things that Lion Jackie spoke to as it concerns even the mix of members, there's a story I'd like to tell you concerning something that happened at the Lions Club of Mona. The majority of us on this call would know that we have our own den, and the resource center has the facility downstairs for the university students with special needs, and we operate upstairs. For years, we have a grill gate just beside the elevator. And for years, we could not find the correct lock that would be able to lock everything up so the gate remains closed or locked when it is that we are away. And we bought all sorts of locks. And every time we bought a lock, it was just too short or it just didn't fit right, and we just couldn't deal with it. And interestingly, a fireman joined the club. And he said, but what is the issue? All you need is a piece of chain that you can wrap around the top of the grill for the part at the top and the part on the gate, and then you put the lock through the two holes. That has been the solution. And we struggled with that for years because of the fact that we never thought of that. So we have different members who offer different skills. So we have to watch for that. because sometimes when we think only intellectual, it may not necessarily work. That is why we need the right mix of members. Another thing I'd like to say before I continue with the retention slide is the fact that I got a piece of information today that was shared with me. And you may find this particular piece of information very important, but perhaps what I should do is hold it. There's something that says hold it, and I will share it at the end of the exercise. So let's continue with membership retention strategies. As a membership team, we need to develop a membership profile for your club, and you need to know your membership. You kind of need to know what skills each person has. And so when it is that we're looking at what we need to get done, so if there's a letter to be written to the Governor General's office, we know we're going to need a particular skill set for that. We may even have to do some research that we get the right protocol and all of these things. We need to be able to look at which members will be looking at stuff like that. Another member may know exactly how to assist with our agricultural project, because some persons may plan something and we could water for days and get locked up in the time when we have water restrictions and it never grows. And somebody else will do it and it grows beautifully. So we have to have the right mix of members when it is that we are looking at our clubs. Now, one of the things we need to look at is to consider why people join, what they have to give, what their expectations are, and rewards expected to gain. Now, some persons will have time in different ways. I recall one member who joined my club. She was on sabbatical leave at the University of the West Indies, and she just wanted something to do. She came, she was an outstanding lad. She worked for about 4 years or so in the club. She had gone back to work after the first year, but sometime after about 3 to 4 years, she decided it was near her retirement time and that was it for her. And she still supports the club when she can, but it is the case that she no longer has membership. So you have persons who will have different needs at different times. I recall as a Leo, there was one young man in a particular club that I won't mention who came because as a young man, he was now starting to look at friendships and relationships and so. Came there, was an outstanding tail twister, did not find anyone that he thought was interested in him. So after a while, he left because his purpose of joining was not just to give service, but also the fact that he had an interest in a relationship. No one in there had an interest in him that way. So after a while, he left. So people have different kinds of expectations. Some persons also are interested in rewards. Now we have to look at that very carefully. When we work as Lions and Leos, we don't work for gain per se. We work because of the need that we have to serve the less fortunate. So rewards really should be incidental and not necessarily something that I'm looking forward to. So I only work, and if it is that I worked and I did not get rewarded, then I have no interest in Lionism after that. That's not how this thing works. We are to work towards assisting the less fortunate and building our own capacities. And where it is that we benefit from an award, then we should be grateful for the purpose. There are many things to be gained without getting an award. I've seen very shy lands come into a movement. They go to the podium there to give a report and they can't tell what anyone is wearing because they're looking right down on the podium. And after a while, after building their confidence, they're able to stop, look around, identify someone, speak to that person's need, come back to their script, and come off the stage wonderfully. So we grow in different ways in this movement. Next slide, please. And Wendy, next slide. And Wendy, are you still with us? Thank you. So here are some phases that we look at as persons look to membership and their different needs that they have. My need is going to be different than yours, although it is that we all are under one umbrella. So there's the searching phase and there's also the discovery phase. As clubs, we have to create an atmosphere that will make persons feel comfortable diving in. We don't want to overwhelm new members by giving them too much responsibility right away, but set them some tasks. Help make the member feel valued. If we don't do that, it could lead to frustration. Because sometimes I may want to say something, but because you have the person that's always talking, and because they're senior to me, their points are greater, and they're always recognized, and the president always somehow recognizes them and never sees me, and my little hand that goes up, these things lead to frustration. So presidents have to understand the balance of working through their members and understanding that they should not read the code of ethics every week, or and when we should not be doing the vote of thanks every occasion. We need to be able to develop our members over time. Try matching a new member's skills and interests to an appropriate club task. So one of the skills that we need in the movement, and it's a very, very strong need that we have, and every year, especially in recent times, we need Lance to work as club secretary. And that is always a challenge each year. Some persons do it because of the person, and the president is their great friend. So you don't have to ask twice. That person is going to do it. But once somebody does it well, sometimes they want to leave that person to keep repeating. And that sometimes results in burnout. And some people think that it's too much work. And the truth is that the role of the secretary is a lot of work. So we have to watch how we build capacities and support persons and treat secretaries well. Because sometimes we get so critical of our secretaries that other persons who would want to support in the role say, I'm not doing that. See how them do so and so. I'm not allowing them to do that to me, and things like that. The next phase is commitment. Don't overwork the land. And sometimes I say that, but I have to think twice about it, because with how lands clubs are now in terms of the number of persons who are available to work, because we all in every club know that it's a particular percentage of the club that is really in the active category. So although a good number are in the active category, because the rule says that a certain percentage has to be, the case is we only have a few persons that we can depend on each time for each project or activity or task that we need to complete. So we have to watch how we overwork our members, because if we do that, we're going to have persons being burnt out, and then we're going to have issues where persons don't come back out to meetings, or they just simply say, no, they're not doing that. We have to make changes. We have to avoid the same old, same old. And sometimes as more senior lands, we fall into the trap where we think, oh, we've always done it this way. So I don't know why this person is coming to tell us something new or telling us that it can be done another way. We have to watch that, because especially with millennials, you know, we can turn off younger land when it is that we speak in certain ways. We have to also ensure to introduce new projects and activities. Because if we keep doing the same projects all the time, you're going to find that each year the numbers for participation are going to get lower. Once it is that you offer something new and different, all of a sudden you're going to notice that some of the lands that never used to come out to projects and activities are now coming out because they are now excited about something new and something different. We have to ensure to involve the family. Landism takes up a lot of time. And sometimes we can get questioned as to why it is that we spend so much time with Lionism. Where it is that we can involve our family members in different things, like, you know, get them to come to plays, get them to come to large health fairs, to help with the registration and so on. And they see what it is that you're doing, and they see the look of gratitude and the talks of gratitude from the persons who we serve. They will understand why it is that we have a need to serve in this way. Consider personal development activities. And there are several of those that you can look at. We have different leadership institutes and stuff that lands as we look at growing our members and building capacities. We have persons that can go after some of these things, so we can support them in that way, so they can be better lands and be able to better support the club going forward. Reward and benefit, there's goodwill, there's fellowship, there's networking, recognition, prestige, etc. There are a number of things. You know, for example, one of the greatest things for me as a land, and certainly for my family, is that I lost parents. And when you looked in that church, the number of lands that came out to support was tremendous. And so my family at first had an issue, even from the days when I was a Leo. They wondered why it is that I spend so much time. When those 2 days came, my family looked at Lionism differently. And now I'm asked, how can I join? Especially my nephews and so. Those persons are now asking questions. So, dependent on the outlook and the positive image that we show and the support that we give, we can change outlooks of other persons who maybe before didn't think about it as positively. There are also 2 other phases. There's the questioning and the adjustment phases. There are reasons for changes. The reasons for changes can be very personal. It's not a one size fits all. Something could happen for me tomorrow. I could probably get a job in Montego Bay, and I may have to transfer from my club to another club because it would not be practical for me to stay in my club, unless, of course, I'm going to change my category of membership, in order that I could continue to serve Lionism in a different area. So there are a number of things that could happen. Someone could get married. Lion June every now and again would talk about this other husband that she wishes to have. You never know. She may go overseas on one occasion and meet someone, and then she migrates to Canada. Things happen. So we can, different things happen for different lands. Club should be sensitive to the financial status of members. And that is very, very important. And under the new COVID regime, that is something that cannot be overemphasized, because it's time now for us to build. And maybe this is a good time to read this piece of mail that I promised to do at the end. So Lions Clubs International has written a document or a piece of correspondence that came out today that I'd just like to share at this stage. It says, "Dear club leader, the coronavirus COVID-19 pandemic has impacted the work of Lions around the world. In many cases, it has also created financial hardships for our Lions and the people for whom we care. To support the incredible men and women serving with us, the International Board of Directors has passed a resolution to help our clubs. Here's an overview of the resolution approved by the board. Flexible payments, bullet point 1. No clubs will be suspended or cancelled through December 31, 2020 for late payment of dues. Bullet point 2. Charter and entrance fee waiver. We have waived all charter and entrance fees from July 1 to December 31, 2020. These measures will help Lions facing financial hardships and give our clubs hope, encouragement, and an opportunity to start the new Lion year with renewed energy and optimism. This may be a time of great need, but we will overcome this together. For more than a century, Lions have taken on the greatest challenges facing humanity. That is who we are and what it is that we do. So let us stand together and let us remember just how important we are to our communities and the world." And of course, this correspondence is signed by Dr. Jung Yul Choi, our international president. So whilst it is that we know and the world knows that there are different challenges because a number of persons have been laid off and so on, but Lions Clubs International is doing what it can to assist us to manage through this process. Persons' circumstances may change after they become members. Employ humane ways to allow them to keep their dignity, even if times prove difficult. So, sometimes we end up saying things that we shouldn't say, and we say little things like, you see the one Dave not pay him dues, it's walking to him. And Dave may have shared quietly that there's a little bit of a challenge and he's not able to pay dues at this time. If that goes back to Dave, of course, Dave becomes very despondent and start to lose trust and faith in his members. So we have to watch how it is that we comment, and we have to be very mature about how we manage our members. As we continue with these phases, we need to know how to resolve conflict, and that is very, very important. We should not leave conflict to fester. Do not let them fester. Once it is what we recognize there's a conflict, we need to handle them. Whoever it is that is going to be in charge of the resolution, the conflict resolution exercise, should avoid taking sides. So because I'm friends with Lion Isaac, and I'm not as close to land somebody else, because Isaac is my friend, it doesn't matter what Isaac did, Isaac is right. We have to watch those things. Discourage cliques. Now, cliques can be positive and they can be negative. Where it is that we find that cliques are negative, we need to get on those and discourage them very quickly. We have to show that we care. You know, different things can happen. A member may get ill and the member may be off for a while. Because the member is not available to do projects and activities, sometimes it can happen where it is that they are forgotten. Membership teams have to ensure that we take care of the persons on our care list, advise the directors especially what's going on with the person, and when you come to general meetings, you share what has been done and encourage the rest of the membership to engage. Now, there are some persons who are very private, and we know this. Some persons don't want anybody to know their business. So there's a mature way in which it is that we can say stuff and still protect the member and the member's dignity. Show patience, especially now that we have so many different changing scenes in life. We need to show patience because a lot of us, even without knowing it sometimes because of this whole COVID thing, we get a little more cranky. We are affected psychologically, although we think we're big and strong. And we may respond to something in a way that's so negative that we would normally not have that problem. But because we're thinking of how am I going to pay the mortgage, how are the children going to go to school, and worse now that a lot of children are at home and stuff, and you're not accustomed to that, you may find that you're wondering now if the ministry should be sending you salaries because of the fact that you have now become the teacher, as it were. And we have to learn how to communicate. It's very important that we learn how to communicate. And we can communicate generally, but we also have to look at each member and know how we communicate. So the things that you may be able to say to Dave, and it's quite fine, it may not be the thing that you can say to somebody else. So you have to know your members. Retention is a team activity. All club officers and committee chairpersons should share the responsibility for involving members in all aspects of the club. And that's very, very important. There are times when we have persons on the active list who just don't come out to meetings at all. And there are even times when it is that when they were coming in as members, it was quite fine. They were always there. They came up to induction and everything is fine. And maybe they spend 2 years and then suddenly they have to be reminded that meetings are held on a third and fourth Monday and all sorts of things. But we have to be patient as membership teams and work it out, speak through their sponsors, get support so that we can try to engage or re-engage these persons that may have fallen by the wayside. In continuing with membership retention strategies, we need to be clear about what skills we're looking for. Because sometimes some of the skills that we used to have just go without us realizing it. So we may have had 5 or 6 nurses. So when we have health fairs, there would be no problem. But over time, persons get older, persons pass on, and we may find that we're down to 2. So we may need to find that we may find that we now need to, in looking at growing our members, our membership, we may need to look for more nurses or stuff like that as we continue to move. We have to create an interesting image and visibility. Very, very important. If you're a lion and you're wearing that pin, it's important that you behave in a certain way. Especially now that we have these extremely long lines everywhere that you have to go because of social distancing. Persons get hot under the collar, and so we have to be careful that when we respond, because you know how we are in Jamaica, once you have one person lighting a match, then everybody has a problem. And so there's a quarrel in the bank line, and there's a quarrel at the tax office, and so on. But we have to watch those things because persons will go off and say, the lions are hooligans. Nobody remembers that it was Lion Dave or even cares that it was Lion Dave. They're just going to go out there and go, the lions are hooligans. So we have to watch for things like that. We also have to be mindful of people's expectations, what they expect of you and what you expect of them. It's a very, very important thing. And what it is sometimes they expect of you, you can't come up with the full goods all the time because you're one person and you may have other things to do. But these things have to be discussed so we know how we manage shared efforts so that we don't end up with things like frustration. We have to know what our product is. And the packaging of Lionism should be appealing. So we shouldn't be in a public space and carry on in a certain way and expect that out of that exercise, whatever took place, we're going to attract new members because persons will have no interest. I'm sure there are other persons who have had this experience where because of a particular incident that happened in a club meeting one evening, a guest never returns because of how badly we behave. So we have to watch for stuff like that. We have to know what our packaging is and ensure that it's appealing at all times. So when it is that we have issues and we recognize that it's going to go too far and it may turn off guests, that is a time when we need to hold strain and ask that this matter be discussed at another meeting where it is that we don't have guests. So we don't end up making guests feel that, wait, it's only quarrel these people come to court. Next slide, please.
Okay, Landy, this is your last slide.
That's the last slide?
Yeah, the other one I have was for Jackie, in case you wanted to still do the
Unless something, there's not even a thank you slide on the screen line on this particular PowerPoint line, Wendy?
Sorry, there's a gratitude after this one.
Okay, do that, please.
Okay.
All right, so I think we have shared a number of things this evening, and we have tried to make it as practical as we thought we could. So on behalf of Lion Jackie, I'd like to thank you all for listening as it relates to this particular membership slide or membership presentation. And again, on behalf of Lion Winston, I'd like to thank you all for supporting and listening to the public relations presentation. Are there any questions?
This is Lance Seabird. Good evening, everyone. Are you
Hi,
hearing me,
Lance
Landy?
Seabird. Yes, I'm hearing you, Lance Seabird.
Yes, Landy. The question came in late, but I've always wondered if there shouldn't be a standard letterhead for Lions clubs. You know.
What do you mean exactly?
And
you mean like one letterhead for all clubs?
Yeah. Standard. Just that I've gotten an award as being a good secretary, so I know that I used to have a letterhead with the name of the club, blah, 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 and all the directors and everybody on the left-hand side, and down the bottom, nowadays you would have website and email and everything. Do we have a standard that we could have said that we have different clubs sending out different kind of letterheads? I mean,
well, I'm not sure if anybody else has an opinion on this, but I think letterheads have a general standard. But we also have to be sure that, or ensure that we don't let clubs lose their individuality. So I think most letterheads will look the same, but each club may have their own way of dealing with it in terms of what they put on it. So I'm not sure that we could have a general standard like that. I mean, the standard, sure. Yes, we have to have the board of directors. Yes, we have to have the name of the club, and where we need to have the address, the website, and the contact information. Those are the standards.
And we should have just the Lions letterhead along with the Leo, or just one. It's just the Lion letterhead. That's what I'm thinking about, having a standard.
Perhaps that is something that we can discuss further. But again, we have to also watch that clubs lose. We don't want clubs to lose their individuality. That's very important. But at the end of the day, where I see you going, I can understand the business of image. Whatever the letterhead is, it should be of a particular quality that reflects Lions Club International.
Lions Club International. Thanks.
Welcome.
Hi, good evening. Lan Dave, can you hear me?
I can.
Hi, this is Lan Peter Gay from St. Andrew Central.
Lan
Good
Peter Gay.
presentation. Thank you very much to you and Lan Jacqueline. Will we be getting a copy of the presentation? Because there were a couple slides that I missed because I was busy scribbling away. So there are a couple slides that I did miss.
All right. So at the beginning of the exercise, and I think since we started this week, the leaders have expressed the fact that all the slides will be cross-checked and they want to ensure that they are of a particular standard, and all of these presentations will be uploaded to the district website. So everyone will be able to access when it is that when they need to. So you should be fine, Lan Peter Gay.
Many thanks. Sorry I missed the beginning. I had some internet issues trying to log on.
That is more than fine. Thank you.
Right.
Are there any other questions?
Landave?
Yes.
If there are no further questions, I want to thank you so very much, you and your team, for this wonderful presentation this evening. And as you did say, all of these presentations will be made available on the website after we have vetted them and make sure that they are of Lands International's quality.
Certainly, Lan Paulette.
So if there are no further questions, I am grateful. We have 66 persons joined. We are now at 61. So that's a marvelous number. Can you imagine? We have 61 persons who have benefited this evening from this presentation. So all of those who are online, I want to thank you so much and look forward now. Join us again tomorrow at 1 o'clock when we will have the presentation on secretaries. Thank you all very much for joining. We'll talk again soon.
Sorry, Lan Paulette, before you go, remember the evaluations. I believe there's an option for persons to do evaluations as well if they so desire.
Yes, and we would like, for those persons who joined us from the very first presentation, we would like them to do the evaluation for those as well, including this evening.
Lan Paulette?
Yes.
Question, Lan Isaac here.
Yes, Lan Isaac.
What you have 2 sessions tomorrow.
Yes.
Are any of these conflicting with the multiple district?
Oh, no. We made sure one is at 1 o'clock and the next one is at 3 o'clock.
Okay.
So we should be
clear.
We should be clear. We should that in mind.
I think it begins at 4 o'clock our time. Is that so?
It said 5 Suriname time is 4 our time.
No, Suriname is one hour ahead of the Eastern Caribbean, and the Eastern Caribbean is an hour ahead of us.
So that would make us 4 o'clock then.
And if they start, what are they going to start at? 6 or 5?
No. We have one at 1 and one at 3.
Yes, I'm saying, but the multiple district convention begins in Suriname at what time? Is it 6 o'clock their time?
No, it said 5 o'clock their time.
5 o'clock, which means it's going to be 3 o'clock here.
I'll double check that and send out a communique. Worst case scenario, we pull our presentation up 1 hour to make sure that all persons who want to be a part of the multiple district convention can do that and not miss the presentation. So I'll quickly look at that tonight and send out something if it's that necessary. Thank you, Lan.
One second, please. Lan Paulette, it starts at 6 o'clock Suriname time. So that would be 4 o'clock our time.
Right.
So that means then the last presentation would only have 1 hour.
That's right.
Before thing. Okay. Again, we'll look at that. I'll touch base with the other coordinators on this team. And if necessary, we'll check the time to be a half an hour. So, and I'll also land Wendy. We might have some thoughts on the whole thing. All right.
Okay.
Thank you very much.
Dave.
Thanks again, Dave, and the team.
Okay.
Right night, everybody. Line Wendy, thank you so much.